Is it going? Okay, yes, we're here. We are here in 2024. Hello, I'm your host Diego Crespo at the Waffle Press Retrospectives. Here's my co-host Matt Garingo.
Yes, it is I.
Matt, how are we?
I'm a little congested today. I'm getting the seasonal allergies, I guess. But
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
what the fuck you gonna do?
Yeah, I don't
Beyond
know.
that,
Did you get seasonal allergies 12 years or 10 years ago? 12 years ago. I'm already fucking this up. Did you get seasonal allergies 10 years ago?
probably. I mean, I don't fucking know. There was a stretch in my life where for like 3 years in a row I got strep throat right before Christmas break.
Oh my
when I was a
god.
kid. It happened like 3 times in a row. But I wasn't that upset because it meant like I got out of school like 3 days early. So
Silver Linings,
there you
right?
go. Yeah.
Silver Linings Playbook? Just kidding. I know that was a 2012 movie.
Yeah, thank God.
Also, I don't like that movie. Yeah. Anyways, we're here to talk about our 10 favorite movies from 2013, not 2023. Matt had this really fun idea to go back a decade prior, reassess our initial takes on the state of cinema. Maybe when we knew a lot less about cinema and the world.
Yes.
And just kind of like adjust our expectations, see how like we've maybe like changed as fans of movies, and see what would make our top 10 of the year now, looking back at the year 2013.
Yeah.
And we're looking back at 2013 because we just got out of 2023. And everyone else is doing their best of the year list right now. Mm-hmm. We're going to do our best of a decade ago.
Exactly.
And so I think this is a really fun idea. We're going to see how this goes.
This is a legal drinking age year for me. This is my last year where I can't legally drink alcohol. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah. Somewhat immature opinions on cinema. But it'll be fun to revisit. I think we have fun lists lined up.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know yours. You have seen mine.
I have seen.
And just a quick preamble for me is that like I was doing like, oh, it's 2013. I'll do a top 13. It's 2014. I'll do a top 14, and that kind of trickled off at a certain point. Mm-hmm. But this year I had a top 13 list for the year. Mm-hmm. I'll just consider the bottom three honorable mentions.
Yeah, do you want to bring those up?
Sorry, I cut you off.
Do you want to bring up the honorable mentions right now then?
Yeah. Let me just get them out of the way.
All right. Oh wait, we should stress one thing first, just so we're clear. These were our lists in 2013. These are not our current list. We will try to develop a more accurate list by the end of the recording. But what we're gonna mainly talk about is what was in their best of the year list in 2013. Now Diego had his saved. Mine have been scrubbed from the internet because I think at some point I was ashamed of them. So mine is a best approximation, and I will not pull my punches, and you will know that when you see what my number one movie of the year was in 2013.
Oh no!
So it'll be fun to talk about.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. So the quick honorable mentions are Steven Soderbergh's Behind the Candelabra, Jeff Nichols' Mud, and Ridley Scott's The Counselor.
There you go. We're both counselor truthers on this podcast.
Yeah. Aged better than I expected, those three. So they would have probably stuck around, frankly. I'll just say that right now.
I always wonder if like the ones you put at the bottom of your list are like the ones you secretly like really liked, but you kind of feel like you can't make them high on the list. You know what I'm saying? Like you're kind of like insecure.
Yeah.
Being like, I actually really
You're
responded.
like, oh, this has to be the important pick or whatever.
Yeah. You're like a mini Academy, like being like, well, I have to include the important movie on my top 10. Like otherwise, I'll look like a
otherwise,
monster.
What are we doing here?
Yeah, exactly. So,
it's so funny.
I don't have an honorable mentions list, But
Okay. So I'll just say my number 10 then, and then you can say yours.
well, no, we'll talk about your number 10 since it's not on my list, and then we'll switch to mine.
Okay.
Um,
All right. It's Nicholas Winding Refn's Only God Forgives.
hey.
I love him being on his bullshit, and I think I talked about it in the Drive episode maybe, but I'll bring it up now again. Where like the first time I saw it, for the first 15 minutes, I was like, I think I fucking hate this. Like it's like I was just rejecting it, and then by the end I was like, I don't know what to do with that. And I remember someone like left the theater, and then like I was driving around with a friend after, and I was like, did I hate this? And then I was like, nah, well, there's just this whole thing with like the mother and all the fucking the power and then like the I don't understand this symbolism, but it's like really like the violence is really sticking with me, and it's like it felt like none of them had any free will, and then I was like, oh, wait a second. It just starts like unlocking stuff the more I thought about it. And yeah, I'm totally a fan of Refn's bullshit. I'll kind of just throw this on even now, just for like background visuals.
Really?
You know?
You'll do that with this movie?
Yeah. I really respond to it. I wouldn't say it's like I wouldn't hype it up the way I did a decade ago once I finally realized I was in love with it. But I still, again, I am a fan of Refn's bullshit, and
you have it at 5 stars on Letterboxd currently.
Yeah. So like I do still love it, but I'm not gonna be like, oh, you gotta watch Only God Forgives, you know. Now I'm like, oh, you guys gotta watch Fast Five.
That was a movie where I was so put off by the negative buzz, I did not see it in theaters. I waited till VOD to watch it. Even though I was so hyped on Drive, it was kind of one of those where like I wanted to see that with people, but then when I heard it was so negative, I was like, well, this is a movie I'm gonna have to watch by myself. And I probably didn't have a car then, so I wasn't driving to the theater. So it was literally like if I wanted to go to the movies by myself, it was like I had to get someone to give me a ride, or I had to walk the hour it took to get to the mall near me.
Oh my god.
Yeah, which I did a lot. And even though I was all like fucking still like crippled up from all the fucking meds I was on, like I destroyed my body to go to the movies every week. Not the smartest
There is
decision.
no bigger fan of the movies than Matt Garingo.
There really isn't. Or my life was just so horrible at the time. It was the only good thing going on in it. So, rest in piss, Shoppingtown Mall.
Aww.
Yeah, they're tearing it down this year, I believe. So, but yeah,
every mall is like over now.
Yeah, which is like I don't know, like whatever. Everything's weird.
Yeah, that's a more complicated issue, but I think we can all agree we kind of miss like the communal vibes of that.
Can't we build a community space out of these things? But whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, would you? All right, so yeah, I don't know if it wouldn't make my top 10. I'll say that. I like Only God Forgives though, but it wouldn't make my top 10 of that year. Would it still make your top 10 now?
I think it might.
All right.
Honestly.
All right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, just looking back at the rest of the year, it's like there's some good fucking movies that year. We're not gonna say what we'd put now yet, right?
No,
like
we'll save that for the end.
Okay.
I'm picking it a little bit of it.
Yeah, because we could just kind of run through that.
Yeah,
We don't have to break down every new edition, but yeah, it still might. And I only say that because I think it would actually go higher.
Okay.
Yeah.
What makes you so confident that it would be higher?
Some stuff drops off my list entirely. Some stuff gets added, obviously. I don't know. Like if I'm doing another top 13, like it's yeah, okay, maybe it doesn't go higher, but I think it's still on here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
maybe
cool.
higher is a bold statement. I'm looking at one movie in particular, and I'm like, how the fuck did I not put that on there? But
I mean, that
we
happens.
will return to
Like
this.
that happens where you have a movie like that where you're like, oh, I can't believe like I mean, so like lowballed it, you know?
Yeah. I can't believe I left off Anchorman 2. You know, like.
Oh no, was that year?
Yeah, it was that year.
Oh no.
Here, that is not on my list. That would not go on my list. I'll just say this really quickly about Anchorman 2.
That it's terrible.
First half of that movie is really rough.
Mm-hmm.
Something unlocked in my brain when he's like blind or whatever, and he's singing about like the shark Dobie or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fucking just dying. Did I see that in theaters? I don't remember, but I just remember fucking dying laughing. Like I couldn't breathe. And that saves the movie for me, and the entire back half I enjoy. I don't know what the fuck. I wasn't high. I was completely sober. But it just, like, it killed me. Mm-hmm. So, I would recommend the second half of Anchorman 2.
Okay.
That's all.
Well, all right. There's a ringing endorsement. All right. My number 10 we're going to have to skip because it's on your list and it's higher.
Okay.
And if you want to talk about lowballing, my number 10 of that year was Pacific Rim. So that's high. That's on Diego's list as well, but it's higher up on his. So when we get to where he placed it, we'll talk about it. But but that was my number 10 that year.
Okay. And I guess I'll just move to my number 9.
Yeah, we'll go. Yeah, go to number 9.
All right, Fast and Furious 6.
All right, we're getting into it.
Yep. I'm assuming this was not on your list.
It was not on my top 10 of that year list. Now, this was a little before I was like fully like fast pilled, you know, like where I had seen Fast 5 and Fast and Furious 6 in theaters and really enjoyed them. But was kind of still in that mentality of like, yeah, but they can't be like my favorite movies of that year, right? Like that was still my mentality at the time. Now it is. Now I'm more open to saying that. That being said, it still wouldn't make my top 10.
Okay, I accept that because I know like we're in agreement about like that initial run of the franchise up to like 7. I think most people would agree it's like those are pretty like quality blockbusters, you know. Maybe they're not all home runs, but they're pretty quality across the board.
Except for 4, which is like somehow one of the most forgettable movies ever made.
Yeah, I like 4 more now, but it doesn't come together like these other ones. Yeah, Fast and Furious 6 is the best Avengers movie.
Is that your take?
That is my take. It's the Avengers versus the Masters of Evil. Justin Lin is having a ball coming up with like true blue action blockbuster set pieces, you know?
Yeah.
It is still so much fucking fun. Like Fast 5 is that's the perfect one. That is the Fast and Furious movie, you know. But fuck, Fast 6 is he's cooking like with gas still. I think this is the one where I'm like, I could watch these for the rest of my life when I walk out of that theater, you know? And not the rest of my life, but, you know, I got a couple more years out of them. And, yeah, I still think, like, in terms of, like, this era of blockbusters, like, it is one of the better ones by a pretty significant margin. I wish Justin Lin had more opportunities to do stuff outside of this franchise.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, I love this movie.
I think what you're... I will say, though, I think what you respond to really strongly in that movie is kind of what I start brushing up against in terms of the direction the franchise goes. Where it starts becoming more superhero-centric and less, you know, just crazy car-centric, right? Like...
Yeah.
And I think 6 is still a really good movie. I think it's a step down from 5, but it's still very good and better than, you know, if I give it like, you know, if I give Fast 5 stars and I give Furious 6 like 4, that's on a Fast and Furious curve, right? Like, that's just judging them based on the other movies in the franchise.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
But that being said, Fast X from this year might be my least favorite movie of the year. So
yeah, you talked me out of seeing that.
It's
basically,
so bad.
Congratulations.
It's so bad. I'm starting to wonder if Momoa is part of the problem.
Don't say that.
Well, based on what I've heard from Aquaman 2, some of the takes I've heard about Aquaman 2, and
I think what he brought to that is like the best stuff in that movie. I think everyone knows. I saw
you're
it
the
and
only
wasn't
person.
a fan.
You're the only person that has said that to me.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of people are like, he's trying so hard to be like Thor, like he's trying to be Chris Hemsworth. Has been the take I've heard, and
I didn't get that vibe at all.
he's
But
like trying to be
maybe I'm missing the forest for the trees.
A funny guy, and I'm not sure if that's really his persona. As much as I like Momoa, I'm not sure if he's the funny guy in the way Chris Hemsworth is. You know, I'll have to see the movie, but a lot of what he was trying in Fast X felt like trying to be a more like funnier guy, even though he's the villain essentially, and it didn't work at all.
Okay. Yeah, I'll say it's not like an outright disaster, but for the first half hour, like every like 5 to 10 minutes, the movie's kind of like restarting, and I was kind of just like flabbergasted, like, oh, we're like not like the movie hasn't really started yet, and I've been here for half an hour. I don't know what the plot is yet.
That movie from what I understand, had a really difficult time getting to the finish line. So
yes, it did. There is fun stuff in it, like with the monsters and shit. But you know,
it's James Wan, so I mean,
yeah,
he knows what he's doing. Speaking of James Wan,
yeah, you see when he comes to play, and you see like what he never quite figured out with like the narrative propulsion.
You know what, James Wan's weird for me though, where I think Aquaman might be like the one movie of his I really like. Like, because like I'm not I'm not a giant Saw fan. I've never like disliked it, but like I'm not a huge Saw guy. And speaking of 2013, this year was The Conjuring, a movie I saw in theaters, and I really disliked, and have not enjoyed on rewatch. And then Malignant just like didn't do anything for me, and I still don't really know why. Because on paper, Malignant should rule, but it never works for me when I watch it. So I don't know what's going on with Juan. Although that movie he did, Death Sentence, is super underrated. It seems to be the one movie no one talks about.
Yeah, I love Death Sentence.
Death Sentence is great.
Not to spend too much more time on James Wan, someone who did not make my best of 2013 list. I think part of the reason I was bummed with Aquaman 2 is that's the one of his I haven't enjoyed like all the way through.
Really?
Yeah. So I was like, oh, this is like, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like good for me to say this stuff. I was really going about for it. Like, no, I believe in him, even though, you know, I'm like a deer in headlights. Everyone's telling me like they never figured out this movie. They've tested it like 10 times. It gets worse every time. Like, yeah. So
it makes me wonder if there's a cut of the movie that's like 4 hours long that actually works. But
I've heard it wasn't that situation. It's like literally like they wanted like the movie to capture a certain vibe.
Yeah.
And
also,
they kind of didn't like get the script down.
I've also heard Momoa threw his weight around a little bit, which is why he has a story credit on it that maybe conflicted with what Juan wanted to go for in the movie.
I'll say what it is. Like a lot of it was like the eco-friendly stuff because this one, you know, I love the first Aquaman. There's no big like we have to save the ocean stuff. Well, that's like Aquaman's thing.
Well, Ocean Master throws all the trash out of the ocean. He's the villain. And it's that's a good thing. Like that we want. Yeah, that would actually really help. That would be beneficial to basically everyone. Like that's not a bad thing.
Aquaman 2. I will say it was really cool to see a blockbuster be like, no, like this is straight up about climate change. Like the events of this film happen because of pollution and climate change.
How's Patrick Wilson in it? How's Ocean?
Oh, he's tons of fun.
That's all I care about.
Oh no. You might like this movie more than me.
I might
because of him.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. It's not on my radar though because I'm trying to catch up with a bunch of movies right now.
Yeah, you catch up with the stuff that matters, and that breaks my heart to say that about Aquaman 2.
Wonka has a higher priority on my list than Aquaman 2.
Yeah, which is apparently good. Anyways, that was Fast and Furious 6.
Yes. That's technically the last Paul Walker one, right? Like he passes away during 7.
Yeah,
so.
like he's still in a lot of 7 because they did the dramatic stuff, like the non-action stuff first.
But that is one of those.
That's why it was
movies
easier to like replace him.
Where it was like the early, like we brought his brother on, we did like all the CGI to recreate it, and like I when I watched 7, I had the idea that he had shot most of the movie, and then you watch it and you're like, oh, he really is barely in this thing, like as a actual character in it because of what happened. Like you can tell when you watch that movie that there are so many scenes where he's in them and no one acknowledges him really. Like he doesn't say anything. He has no bearing on the situation. And it's all Vin Diesel talking, and then they'll just look at Paul Walker and they'll just nod. It was weird.
I didn't feel that when I first saw it. I still don't feel it that much. I will say you can tell now, like just knowing.
I had a visceral response to that, like, cause I was probably looking for it, like, and it maybe hurts my enjoyment of that movie. It made me uncomfortable, like being like, cause I just thought he had done more of the movie than apparently he had, and to watch scenes where it's like, oh, he hasn't really been in the movie for about an hour now. Like it's kind of insane. So
I don't know if it's that drastic, but
it feels it at times.
It's noticeable now.
They'll cut to him and they'll have like one line, and it'll be something like, "Yeah, drive," and it's like that could have been from any scene. Like, so wait, how do we feel about that looking back? Like, I know it's like a big, like, you know, like everyone, it was that like send off of it, you know, and stuff like that. But it's weird considering how like weird like de-aging and shit has become now in cinema, and bringing back, you know, like fucking Princess Leia and Rise of Skywalker and shit like that.
I do hate it in Rise of Skywalker. I think because of Paul Walker's like passion for the franchise and actually being like tight with Vin Diesel.
According to Vin Diesel.
According to Vin Diesel. I mean, yeah, we got questionable stuff going on there that we don't have time to get into.
Yeah, we do not have time to get into that. But
I would I don't know. I don't envy anyone making that movie at that point.
I guess the pass I would give
it still works.
The pass I would give Fast 7 is that they were filming it when it happened. Like it wasn't like Rise of Skywalker. They had not started filming when Carrie Fisher passed away. So it was a like you could have just written her out of the movie, but. And then you're in a no-win situation where Paul Walker dies, where it's like, do you kill him in the movie? Which is like, you just can't do it. Like,
yeah,
that would have been
which is like, which was a rumor at the time. Do you remember that?
I do. Yeah. That was part of the tension of that fucking movie. Was like, how are they going to handle this? So, but they I think they did a fine job with just kind of having him ride off into the sunset. You know. All right.
It's about as good as you can handle that situation.
Yeah. All right. My turn for my number 9, which I don't believe is on your list. My number 9 probably would have been Captain Phillips. The Paul Greengrass movie. I'm weird with Paul Greengrass, where I don't like any of his Bourne movies, but I was a big fan of United 93. And Captain Phillips kind of felt more in the vein of United 93, not just because it was based on a true event, but just it felt a little more grounded, right? Like it was less a like action thriller and more just a like a lot of that movie is just about being stuck in that boat for like an hour, you know. And it's a really intense movie. I don't know. It feels like no one talks about it anymore, and I've watched it maybe like once or twice since then, but I haven't felt like a giant urge to revisit it.
Yeah, I remember really liking it, and I do generally like Greengrass. I think maybe he's fallen off a little bit. I'd like to see him get back on that horse.
Well, what has he done lately? But, he did that News of the World, which I never actually saw. And
I thought that was okay.
And that 22 July, which is another like tragedy movie, which I think people like.
Yeah, which I did not see.
Most people responded negatively to that. I don't even think I finished that one. Like, it was kind of just like, let's not do this.
Yeah, and then after Captain Phillips, he does Jason Bourne, which everyone was like, why?
Yeah.
And then it turns out it's just him and Tony Gilroy fighting for dominance of the franchise.
That is such a strange thing that ended up happening with that
That
franchise.
is.
I guess he
Yeah.
had Damon on his side because they did Green Zone together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Even though when you watch Jason Bourne, you're like, oh, this was kind of Tony Gilroy's baby. Whoops.
Sure.
That's
like I said,
fine.
I'm not a strong enough defender of those movies to be like, yeah, I'd feel that way now. Like, you know, it's
Yeah.
shit changes.
I get you. Yeah. Yeah, not on my list. Not on my list.
Mm-hmm. Great Tom Hanks performance. It's one of those like reminders, like, oh, Tom Hanks is genuinely a great actor type movies.
Yeah. His Oscar clip when he breaks down, like that's still like really powerful shit. Like every once in a while you see someone tweeting or whatever, like, oh, like what's a great performance that stuck with you or something, and that's like come up like pretty often. Yeah, Tom Hanks is just one of those guys.
The only thing I remember this bugged me at the time, and it still bugs me now, is it felt like the movie wanted an obvious out with which of the Somali pirates was a bad guy. Because there's an opening scene. There's an opening scene when like the Somali pirates are on the beach and they're like going out, and the main group of guys are like, all right, let's get our boat. It's like we need one more guy, and like this dude with like the angriest look on his face is like, I'll join. And then there's like some like throwaway line like, he's not even from our village, he can't be trusted. Like it feels like ADR almost. And it was like, oh, this guy's gonna be the obvious problem. And so it's like from then on, like anytime a situation got escalated, it was that guy's fault. And I was like, okay, like I know we need an obvious bad guy so like the rest of everyone else can kind of feel like in the middle and shit like that. But I remember that bugging me then, and it still bugs me.
Yeah, it's a little like, oh no, he's not one of the good ones.
Yeah,
you know, like it's a real softball.
Yeah,
for like white audiences, basically.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a movie for white audiences ultimately. Like, it's like the Somali parts are made sympathetic to an extent, but it's still, we have to not hate ourselves leaving the theater when most of them get shot to death by the end of it. We're supposed to feel sad, but we're not supposed to be like, well, like we're not supposed to be devastated. But even though when you really think about it, it was like, what the fuck? It was like a fucking boat. Like, who gives a shit? Like,
yeah.
Remember that was like a weird thing where it was like suddenly like pirates were back. Like that was such a weird moment.
What was that?
Well, I think it was because
it was like that.
It was this one thing, and allegedly the real life Captain Phillips kind of like behaved very recklessly and almost like basically deliberately got himself caught by the Somali pirates. Like that's the story. That's the real life story. And then when that happened, it turns into that classic thing when there's like one shark attack, and suddenly there's like, are shark attacks on the rise? And then you have to watch like a fucking 1 hour report that basically goes like, well, no, but they could be. Like, so I think this is
that's the fucking bullshit with all that like investigative true to life stuff. It's like, no, but it could happen.
Exactly.
It's like, you know what else could happen? We're hit by a fucking asteroid in like the next 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Is it gonna happen? No, probably not.
You know.
Yeah, like maybe calm down. These fucking people.
Are murderers hiding in your house? Details at 11. Like, that's the news.
Yeah. Speaking of criminals, could I jump to my number 8?
Yes. But we're going to skip it because it is higher.
Martin Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street. Wait, what?
Well, I was saying we're going to skip it because it's higher on my list, but that's all.
Okay, it's Martin Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street.
Hell yeah.
That's it.
We'll get back to that one. I'll probably have a lot to say about that movie. My number 8 was The World's End, directed by Edgar Wright.
Oh my god, that's another one I can't believe I left off my list.
Hey. I think that's now like the hipster choice of being like, that's actually secretly the best of the Cornetto trilogy, right? Like I think that's what people say now.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree. I think Hot Fuzz might be the best one, but
I agree. That's always been my favorite, though.
Yeah,
I'll say that.
But I think I put World's End on the list because one, it had kind of underperformed, and I felt bad. And then there was a weird like pitting the World's End against This Is the End. Do you remember this discourse?
I kind of. I was like, no, this is the real movie. This is the funnier movie. This is the better. Like, who gives a shit?
Well, people were like, I can't believe the world actually ends at the end of the World's End. Like, I remember that. Like, wow, it ends on like a really depressing note. And I'm like, have you seen these fucking movies? Like, that's what happens. Like I remember people being like, it's that classic thing which is still happening to this fucking day, where an ending of a movie is treated like it actually happened in real life. Like, because at the end of spoilers for the World's End, but the end of that movie, the invading aliens basically set off like a giant EMP that like wipes out all technology on Earth and like sets us back to the Stone Age. And I remember people being like, but what about all the people in hospitals on life support? And I'm like, it's a fucking comedy. Like, it's about a guy's it's about a guy like being an alcoholic. Like, and that's that weird kind of discourse that used to happen, right? Like,
I mean, it still kind of does.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I just said it does kind of still happen. And then the World's End is like, This Is the End has gone on to be one of the most canceled movies of all time because of the cast.
Yeah, I mean, it might be the most canceled like American movie next to Baby Driver.
Yeah, I guess Edgar Wright is competing with it in another way. But remember This Is the End had Gangnam Style in it?
Oh yeah.
Remember when that song was everywhere?
I do. You know what? Not a bad song.
Sure. Whenever I just think about
Isn't it like about the working class?
Yeah, but like also when I think about that era of like 420 blaze it like lull culture type shit, like it's such a like they don't see it coming. Like fucking 3 years, man, it's gonna be 2016. Like, shit's gonna go down. Like, it's such a
maybe that's it. There's just a bad taste in my mouth for like all that.
Yeah, it's like I cannot listen to like any podcasts from before 2016 either. Like,
oh yeah, no.
It's such a weird like everyone just assumes everything's gonna work out. What a weird time.
Well, some stuff worked out.
Like what?
Well, for the Republicans, not for good people.
Oh, hey. Got him.
No. Yeah, boom. I still got it.
Boom, roasted.
Speaking of Republicans, if I can move to my number 7.
Yes. This is insane that this is higher than Wolf of Wall Street, by the way.
Yeah, this made me want to kill myself. Iron Man 3. a movie I do love still.
I think
maybe not more than Wolf of Wall Street.
I'm willing to bet it made my top 20 that year, and it was mainly just a reaction to the people who were upset about the Mandarin twist. Like, I'm so driven by spite. I would have totally put Iron Man 3 on my list from the really bad takes that came out of that movie. Even though it is far from
we already talked about it.
Yeah, we just did.
Yeah, like we did just talk about it, and I stand by everything I said, and I would say even more positive things about it. Everything I said about Fast 6 also being like one of the better blockbusters. I think Iron Man 3, like, I love my Guardians trilogy. I think the action in Iron Man 3 is kind of like unparalleled in the franchise. So
okay,
yeah,
now,
good stuff.
Now, here's something I was thinking about with 2013, also the year of Man of Steel. Which is a movie that has been reclaimed by a lot of people and would probably make a lot of people's top 10 list. And I will say one thing I was thinking about with that movie, to give it some credit, is that I do it sticks out a lot better than other superhero films that were released around that time, right? Like, it has a more distinct visual style to it.
Absolutely.
So pitting Iron Man 3 and Man of Steel against each other, who do you think comes out on top?
Iron Man 3.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Yeah. We've talked about it a while back too, but yeah, Man of Steel I do think very interesting. I don't think it comes together for me. I admire it more than I'll ever enjoy it, and I have no interest in revisiting it. Go with God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bad movie.
BVS is great though.
It's a bad movie, and it's insane that they tried to build a shared universe off of it.
No, that's what's crazy. And then you know what? I'm not like, everyone knows I'm not like a Zack Snyder hater anymore and stuff like that. But whenever we hear like did you guys hear Tony Scott almost did Man of Steel? Or he was like Christopher Nolan's pick to do Man of Steel? That's when I'm like, what the fuck are we even doing here anymore?
Yeah.
Like, that's obvious. That would have been the best movie like ever made. Like,
it would have.
We don't have to give these things like half measures anymore.
It would have killed everyone. It would have been so good. Like, Warner Brothers would buy Disney. Instead of the imminent collapse of Warner Brothers, which should be any day now. Good job, Zaslav.
Man, what a fucking tool.
Yeah. It's interesting that he's going to just go down as like one of those hated men in history.
I know. That's pretty wild.
I'll say no superhero films on my list. I actually put like Pacific Rim was like the only action thing I put on my list. And I can't really think of why I did that. Like why it shook out that way.
I don't think it was a great year for action movies, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
That might be part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it. I don't have any stronger take than that. I just I don't think it was a good year for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I look back, it's like there was a better selection, although there was one of the fucking Hobbit movies. Which one was it? The Desolation of Smaug.
Oh yeah.
Which I saw in theaters, and
Fun
a guy
time.
got angry at the ending behind me. Rightfully so. That movie sucks ass. Sucks so much ass.
I think it's okay.
Complete ass. The dragon stuff's fun though. Until it just doesn't.
Yeah,
have
that's
an
the best.
Until it just doesn't have an ending.
Yeah, that's a very strange choice. It's almost like it should have been 2 movies at most.
Yeah, it didn't. In the scene when they escape from the elves in the barrels, there's
a GoPro shot. Yes.
Yes, like I that was one of the most jarring things I've ever seen in a major blockbuster.
Well, it's just so like antithetical to like the classical formal approach that those movies were taking already. So it's like, why did you do that?
Diego, that's a really long way of saying it was a bad idea that shouldn't have been done.
Yeah. Well, I meant like Lord of the Rings. Like, so when you move into the Hobbit territory and you get hit with that, you're like, wait, what the fuck?
Yeah. Then he rolls down. The one guy falls down. He's in the barrel, and then he pops out with the axes, and he uses the barrel as a shield.
Yeah.
Fuck that movie.
I do kind of like that image.
What the fuck?
Not in that movie.
There's so much of just the fucking dwarves just bumbling around. And I also lost the nerve. They didn't have any songs in the second one. There were so many songs in the first movie. And they totally abandoned it by Desolation of Smaug.
Yeah, they fucked it up.
Smaug should have gotten a number. I don't know if there actually is a Smaug song, but they should have given him one.
Yeah, they should have.
You ever see the footage of Benedict Cumberbatch as Smaug, doing the motion capture shit?
I was on Tumblr in 2013, so I absolutely saw that.
The funniest thing about that, it was basically unusable footage. There was no reason to have him do it. They just did it.
I didn't know that. I was like, oh, this is...
It was like they did it just to make fun of him.
Oh. Is that real? They really didn't use any of that?
I believe it was one of those things where, even the VFX people were like, why are you shooting this? And it's well, for, reference. And they're like, we're not going to use any of it. He doesn't look like a dragon. So I believe none of it was really used. But that's that whole thing where like they basically lied about how much performance capture there was with Gollum and shit like that. You know, like. You know, because that's what gave Robert Zemeckis the idea. It was like, we're finally here. We can do motion capture, and it's like, oh, it turns out they were lying. So, great times.
Yeah, great times.
I'm making some
jokes. Yeah, The Hobbit's not on our lists.
Yeah, not on either of our lists. I'm making some jokes because my next movie, not a happier film, Fruitvale Station, which I saw in a theater. I dragged a friend to see it, which I can't believe I did. And,
oh my god.
Yeah, and also, you know, like how like I don't know what theaters are like in LA, but you know, like when there's like the numbered theaters and it'll have the little like text up next to it being like what movie's playing in the theater. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
and they can change it for whatever movie. Fruitvale Station did not get that. There was no poster. It was in the furthest theater in the back of the movie theater, and someone had just taped a piece of paper that had printed out and just said Fruitvale Station in all caps on it with an arrow pointing to the theater. I remember that so vividly. Yeah, and then you sit down and watch one of the more depressing movies I had seen up to that point in my life.
Yeah, that one leaves an impact.
Yeah. It's like me 2013. I think The Cops might be bad.
Yeah, this is of course the origins of Ryan Coogler. I think it's his fucking thesis film at USC.
Yeah, well, I think the story with him is that like I think he got handpicked by Forrest Whitaker, like because I think Forrest Whitaker's a producer on that movie, and Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah. Forrest Whitaker is the guy who gives him the shot,
and was like, he's like, I'll produce it, like you make it, and it is an amazing first movie, you know, like right out of the gate, it's like a fully formed fucking vision, and I hope we get to see that Ryan Coogler again someday.
Yeah,
no offense
I'm sure he could go back. I still believe in him, you know. Yeah. Like I didn't hate Black Panther 2.
No, I honestly, he's still very good. Like he hasn't. It's not like who's a better example of someone who like had a good vision, but then once they got into the machine, it kind of went away. Who would I say?
Honestly, now Peter Jackson a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think Peter
different
Jackson,
machine, but
yeah, I think his spirit just got broken, and then like also now he can't do like low budget movies anymore. Like he has to do giant movies. But like you watch Wakanda Forever, which is a very uneven movie, and that's for a lot of reasons that are beyond his control, and you can still see his directing in it. But it also is that funny thing of like Michael B. Jordan is clearly like his muse almost, like where he always finds an excuse to do movies, and the best scene in Wakanda Forever is him showing up even though his character is fucking dead. Like
yeah. And it feels like he still has the story instincts, you know.
No, 100%.
What? Yeah.
It's one
like
of those
decisions like that specifically feel good.
Well, when you read about Wakanda Forever, it's like the stuff that was his before Chadwick Boseman unfortunately passed away. Like that story, that's the stuff that really works. It's the like clearly they had to like shift direction last minute, and then also some of the more marvelly things that were put on top of them is the stuff that doesn't work in that movie, you know. Whereas when it's just when it's just the main story you can tell he wanted to tell, that's when it really works.
Yeah.
And I mean, and like Creed rules. Like I still love Creed. Like I don't know how people feel about it now.
I think we've all come to realize Creed is probably the best legacy sequel. Like, by a pretty significant margin.
I think there's just such a rejection of the legacy sequel thing right now, because of the culture is at. So, Fruitvale Station. I just remember I remember that being a pretty devastating movie in the theaters. It also has the insane choice, if I remember to. They show some of the actual footage in the opening of that movie, if I remember correctly.
Man.
Yeah. That could have been a recreation, but a big. And this is before, if I remember correctly, when does Ferguson happen? I believe Ferguson happens like shortly around this time.
2014. I
Yes,
believe.
like 1 year later. So this is like right before that happens, you know. And it's also interesting to see how these issues, when they get politicized, how people change their opinions on it. Because I'll just say my friend who I saw it with kind of went in a more conservative direction in recent years. And
sorry to hear that.
It happens. And but we saw Fruitvale Station. They were like, "Yeah, fuck the cops. That was wrong. Someone should have been prosecuted, right?" And I'm almost like, well, I wonder what they think now that their team is against this kind of stuff, those kind of reforms. And it's amazing how that can happen with people.
Yeah,
how
interesting
about
to think about.
How about the fucking all the people trying to be like, you leftists are going to be crying now that Bill Clinton has been exposed in the Epstein list.
Oh, yeah, that's so funny. I thought we already knew that.
yeah, I was like, no, we knew that. And two, fuck Bill Clinton. like we don't like him. Like, it's because that's how they are with
like
their guys. Like, that's like they are such a like team player type thing, you know? It's it's so strange because like we don't need Bill Clinton at all, but
yeah, I don't. What does he do?
I mean, he was in charge of the country at the right time. I guess.
Maybe.
I guess is what you could say.
The right time for him, I guess. Yeah.
Right time. Well, yeah, right time for him. But also, it was like the Cold War's over, and like the .coms are booming. Like, so it's he got in at like a right time in terms of where our economy and culture was. The only thing we had to worry about at that time was consumerism.
Oh yeah.
Every movie's like, man, everyone's a phony. Fucking, oh my god, I fucking Fight Club. I bought all of the shit.
Everyone sounds like fucking Holden Caulfield.
Yeah, exactly.
Calling everyone phonies.
Can you imagine being in the 90s like now? Like if we could go back in time and instead of growing up in this decade, we got to grow up in the 90s and being surrounded by people being like, man, everything's so fake right now. Just feeling
it's like, oh, you have no fucking idea.
You motherfuckers. You fucking
You don't
bumps.
even know.
Yeah.
I've come across TikTok accounts that are just like AI bullshit. Like the entire account is like run by an AI, it looks like. And it's just, these people have no idea.
People have no fucking idea how bullshit everything is now. And you did nothing to stop it, by the way. You did nothing, Gen X. Why do you guys get off the hook every time?
I know, what the fuck? What are they called? Like the invisible generation or something?
Is that what they call them?
I don't know. There's something like that where like they didn't make enough of an impression. They're sort of like a transitional generation.
I guess I've always heard that like millennials are kind of like considered a bit of a like lost generation just because we have the financial crisis like and the pandemic like hitting us at like almost like 10-year periods, and it's like so like it keeps derailing
there's
us.
That we're also the generation that grew up at the tail end of a world without the internet and the beginning of a world with the internet. Mm-hmm. We're a very transitional generation as well. I think we're just going to be in transitional generations for forever now.
Hold on. Are we just bullshitting ourselves? Aren't all generations transitional generations?
I mean, maybe, but like I think there's like big strokes happening a lot faster, and I'm not saying that's never happened before. I'm not saying like, oh well, you don't understand millennials because it's never. I'm sure plenty of stuff is very similar to other events that I'm just like not thinking of right now because we're talking about movies from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But I do think the internet one is a big one, and I think like to the credit of the generation that followed us, like I think being stuck in a pandemic for basically 2 years at least, if not longer, that will make an impact on Gen Zers, you know?
Yes.
And so, like, I empathize. I'm not saying one struggle is more important than another. I'm just saying, you know, for our discussion purposes, the internet one is a pretty big shift.
Yeah. I think
I don't know how we got there. But
I think we got the best part of the internet, though. Like, we got the old and the new, so...
Oh, yeah. We have the troll guy emoji.
Hey.
Everyone loved that guy.
We're the generation that gave everyone Pepe.
Oh yeah. And without Pepe, you wouldn't be able to see Richard Spencer get punched on loop.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Where's that guy
Look
been?
at
What
that.
happened to him?
No, he got punched into obscurity. I'm not even joking.
It really feels like that. Like,
and
it is
that's
one of those
why, kids, you should punch Nazis.
you know, not saying you shouldn't. I'm just not saying anything on a podcast that will be recorded. So
Yeah. No, it's Nazis. Yeah, you're right. I should stop saying things.
cut to me. I
moving
get in a bar fight like just randomly like a year from now, and it turns out the guy was a Nazi, and they play this in court and say it was premeditated. And I'm like, fuck. I didn't even know. You just thought he was an asshole.
Well, Nazis are assholes, but
Really?
did you do your number 7 already?
Well, I just did Fruitvale Station, so it's back to you.
Okay. Okay. My number 6 is Disney's Frozen.
Now this threw me for a bit of a loop, seeing it on your list.
Really, I love Frozen. I still love Frozen.
I
think it is easily one of the better Disney movies of the last 2 decades.
I was and am in the camp of Tangled was a better movie.
No, I'm sorry.
I like Tangled.
I do not agree.
More. Frozen is a good movie for like the first half, and then it kind of doesn't know
it's a good movie
itself.
all the way through.
With those fucking trolls and their dumb magic, it doesn't make any goddamn sense.
No, I will say the thing that does kind of like put a mark against it is that there's no killer final song number. Like they do peak with "Let It Go."
That happens in a lot of Disney films, though, for some reason. Like,
yeah, what is that? Like, they've
also,
been doing it for long enough. You think they'd be able to figure it out?
That's famously though that was they wrote "Let It Go" as a villain song, like when the Snow Queen was going to be a villain, and then they kind of went like, let's just make her the protagonist.
Yeah,
and then Disney,
which I do think was the right choice.
Yeah, well, it clearly was for Disney because that gave them like $17 billion.
Yeah.
It basically revitalized their whole thing, which is now like they're back in a slump again, right? Like,
yeah,
because this is like because it was like Princess and the Frog, which like super underperformed, and then Tangled, which Tangled at the time felt like them throwing in the towel. Because like Disney up to that point had been sticking to the whole like we're not DreamWorks, we're not ironic with this shit. If we do a Rapunzel movie, it's called Rapunzel, right? Like that's what it's gonna be. And then Tangled was like, fuck it, it's called Tangled. Look at the hair, they smirk. Like the one guy's like, I don't sing songs, right? Like that's what that movie was. And then you watch it, and the funny thing was that's how Tangled was advertised. And you watch it, and you're like, this is like a really good like fastball down the middle like princess movie. Like it totally.
I do like Tangled.
Totally gets the job done. And then like Frozen just comes out the next year and is like this fucking juggernaut. And and yeah, I don't know. I'm like it's like I like Tangled more, and then of that run, it's like Moana. I think was the best thing that Disney put out. So.
Oh, I completely agree. Moana is like I think top 5 all Disney for me.
So I think Frozen has just gone down in my I was never a huge fan of it, and it's only kind of gone down since then. But interesting. I didn't realize you liked it.
Well,
so
you're
much.
not. Yeah.
Well, what do you really respond to?
I really love that movie.
What do you respond to?
Why did I respond to it?
Like, well, what is it that you're like? Like, 'cause with Disney, they're so kind of formulaic. You can like almost like swap parts out from each other a lot of the time, and it's hard to be like that's that movie's distinct voice. What is it in Frozen that you're like that's why that one's the good one?
I really like the relationship between the sisters like a lot. I have no siblings. So maybe that's why it's like a parasocial thing. But like my mom has 6 sisters, and so like seeing like the squabbles and like them reconnecting and stuff like that. I'm just like it's something I guess I can like understand just like as a viewer, you know. Maybe that's it. But I think it's got, it doesn't feel like cheap. Sometimes you watch like a Disney movie with like the emotional pulls, and you just like, you can see them coming a fucking mile away or whatever, right? I remember at the time one of the big talking points was the rug pull of the Hans being the villain.
Yes.
Right? Everyone was like, "Oh, he's actually a bad guy," and I'm pretty sure I didn't see it coming, but I wasn't like mind blown, because I think that we've talked about this before too. But that's the era where like every villain gets a reveal, or they get locked away in a cage, and it was actually their plan all along. Yeah. So like I kind of had my guard up for villain stuff, and I'm like, there's no like antagonist in this movie.
I think really Frozen really signaled to me the like, I think a problem that came to dominate animated films for that decade, which was the like, we know the tropes type attitude. Like, we understand. Yeah. We're in on the joke too. And it's because there's a lot of like, well, how can you be in love with this guy? You just met him. Like, there's a lot of that, which is like, you know, of course, a reference to a bunch of the other Disney. But what's weird about that movie though is that like she doesn't fall in love with the other fucking guy, but like basically falls in love with him. Like, I mean, even though they just met, and they're on an adventure, so they're trauma bonding, which is even less strong than meeting someone at a dance. But but it was one of those where like they were underlying it so much. I'm like, well, this guy's gonna be a problem. Like, I didn't know he was gonna be like full on villain probably, but I knew like he like if something was gonna go down, this guy, you can't count on him. So. But hey, here's the really good thing. This movie gave us Josh Gad being in everything.
Hate the player, not the game.
Because this is like right after Book of Mormon premieres on Broadway, where he was in the original run, which I saw live. I saw him and the other guy, the original cast, live. And Josh Gad, and this is the same songwriter, one of the songwriters from Book of Mormon did the songs for Frozen. So like that's that connection.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Wow. What's that guy's name? Hold on.
I don't know. I will say though, I am the Josh Gad semi-defender, because he has a couple episodes stint on New Girl as a guy named Bear Claw, and he kind of fucking kills it.
No, you know what? Josh Gad, when deployed correctly, there's an ethical and humanitarian way to use Josh Gad, is what I am saying. But so many films do not consider the implications of Josh Gad. And now it feels like we're kind of...
in New Girl, he's just like a fucking like mess, and he's like he every line feels like a struggle for him, and like he's like super sweaty, and he's like, and now you're gonna get the bear claw, and it's like, it's so fucking funny. I'm sorry, and anyone who knows what I'm talking about agrees with me.
I'll watch New Girl one of these days, I promise.
I know. It's fine. Take your time.
Maybe you get me to watch New Girl and I get you to watch some anime and we do a series on it.
Sure. Yeah, I gotta watch Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah.
And
when you think about it,
New
Girl,
I wrote it down.
Hunter x Hunter.
Hunter x Hunter, yes.
New Girl and Yu Yu Hakusho are basically the same show.
Yeah, I mean it is anime.
Yes. Robert Lopez is the songwriter. It's him and his wife wrote the songs for Frozen, but Robert Lopez is one of the writers for Book of Mormon. He also did Avenue Q, and yeah, he kind of gets into the Disney machine for a little bit, and he got an Oscar for Frozen for Let It Go. He also did Coco.
Well deserved.
And I believe he also did that Winnie the Pooh movie that no one remembers.
Oh, I remember liking that.
It's actually pretty good.
But that's all I remember about it.
That's another one with like what the fuck? Whoa, what the fuck? There's a Frozen 4 coming? That's strange.
We didn't even do 3 yet.
I know.
What the fuck? Really?
There's 2 letterbox pages. One for Frozen 3, one for Frozen 4. And I thought Frozen 2 taught everyone, don't do another Frozen movie.
No, 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 no. You just have to make sure you have the story in advance because the first and
Well,
last 15 minutes of Frozen 2 are not very strong, but everything else in the middle is great.
well, thank God Disney is known for their strong story structure these days.
Okay, yeah, you got me there.
If they weren't, I'd be worried. We don't talk about Bruno.
Well, we don't have to hold our breath. No, oh fucking no, we're gonna get canceled if we talk about that movie.
you can talk about it.
I'll just say what I told a relative who also did not respond to that movie. And I'm not even gonna name the movie. If you know what Matt and I are talking about, good for you. If you don't, fuck off. But what I told them was, look, there's a bunch of mediocre white people movies every year. We deserve to be mediocre once in a while too.
That's actually
Right.
that's actually a very good take, Diego. That's probably the kindest thing I could possibly think to say about that movie.
Yeah. No. How much fucking white bullshit do we deal with all the time?
No,
It's fine. We
100%.
can get some bullshit too.
White
Yeah.
bullshit like white mediocre bullshit like Frozen. Hey,
No.
got him.
That is cinema. That's
Yeah.
cinema.
Yeah, I mean it's unfortunately a very important movie, so I can't
Yeah.
just dismiss it.
No, you
Not on
cannot.
my list. I don't have any animated films on my list. It would have been The Wind Rises, but I don't think I actually saw it in time to put it on my top 10 list.
Mm-hmm.
So
There's another one, but we'll talk about it at the end.
okay, my number 6 choice was Inside Llewyn Davis, the Coen Brothers movie.
Yeah.
Because I'm fully in the pocket of the Coen Brothers then and now. Like,
Yep.
even though they
No,
broke
it's a
up,
great
now
movie.
They're getting back together. I remember this baffling some people initially. I think most people got it, but I remember it kind of being that weird, like, some people were like, "What's the point?" And I'm not even sure if I have like a strong take on it, but it's a great movie. And I just remember also being in the theater because it was award season, so I'm the youngest person in the theater by about 30 years, and the Please Mr. Kennedy song starts playing, and I'm the only one laughing. And I'm like, does no one get like what do
Outer
people think this is?
space.
Outer space. A great anti-space exploration song. Which for some bullshit reason couldn't be nominated for like best song that year. Like there was some reason.
Why?
I think it sampled something or some other shit. I don't even know, but it's one of those rules where like it technically wasn't wholly original.
That's so
but Inside
stupid.
Llewyn Davis kind of a wake up call movie for me as someone going into their 20s, where you can still end up back in that alleyway when it's all said and done. That Llewyn Davis, a big part of him is he thinks that all this bullshit he's doing is going to be worth it in the end, and it just isn't for him. And he's just at the end of that movie, he's back where he started. And not only that, the apocalypse is happening because who's getting on stage right when he's exiting the stage for the last time?
Bob Dylan.
Yes, who's basically going to destroy all the folk music scene, and get called a Judas live on stage, which is a thing that really happened. You can find the recording of it.
That's fucking wild.
Yeah, but it was like folk music was like this building thing in Greenwich Village, and then Bob Dylan comes along and he kind of kills it, but someone had to kill it. I also like this is pointed out about me, but when Llewyn Davis attacks the lady at the end of the movie, it's like he's confronted with the actual real idea of what folk music is. So of course, when he sees it, he attacks it. So, really great movie. I don't know if I have much to add about it.
Yeah, really terrific movie. I always really liked that one, and I'm actually shocked I didn't put it on my list at the time either.
Probably my introduction to Adam Driver. Now that I think about it, because I didn't watch Girls.
Yeah.
And
there
was another movie that year, but I don't think I saw that movie at the time. So, yes, so that was my introduction to Adam Driver, basically, and it's him being one of the goofiest motherfuckers ever. But
I know. And now he's Enzo Ferrari.
yeah, one of the goofiest motherfuckers ever.
If Bob Dylan wants a scapegoat, here I am.
Here I am. Good
Here
movie.
I am. Yeah, with the
Good movie,
accent.
Ferrari.
Yeah, my
cars
favorite
go
of the year.
fast. Cars go really
Cars
fast.
are fucking scary, is what they are.
Yeah.
Ride around in death traps every day.
Mm-hmm. And I took my dad to see it, and he really liked it, so that's all that really matters.
Yeah, he's right.
Yes. All right, you can do your number 5. We're gonna skip over it because it's higher on my list. So,
Yes. Spike Jonze's Her.
Yep. A very important movie from that year, and it seems oddly relevant
Yes.
right now, but we'll talk about that more in a minute.
Yeah. But yeah, you're number 5.
My number 5, Nebraska, directed by Alexander
Whoa.
Payne. Yes.
Everyone's favorite, Alexander Payne. Google Alexander Payne allegations for more.
Yeah, something's going on with that guy. I have yet to see The
Unfortunately.
Holdovers. I have yet to see The Holdovers, which is his first movie since Downsizing, which wasn't necessary. It was weird. I saw a lot of people being like, "Wow, it's weird Alexander Payne hasn't made a movie in 10 years," referencing Nebraska, and I'm like, "No, he did. Like, he did make a movie, just no one remembers it."
Yeah, I did see The Holdovers prior to learning about those allegations, and I
Yeah.
thought it was very good. Prior
I've
to
heard a
learning
lot
about
of-
those allegations.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of really good things about The Holdovers. And I will see it eventually and judge it as a film, and then maybe never speak of it again. But Alexander Payne's a weird guy.
He is.
Beyond the allegations. Like, Election's a weird-ass movie. Fucking Sideways is weird. Those are all movies where I think...
I do kind of love Sideways, though.
Yeah, but I think every Alexander Payne movie I've ever seen, I respond to really strongly, and then when I revisit a few years later, I'm like, I still like it, but it's not nearly as high up as I thought it was. You know, I think I've had that with every single
I
Alexander-
understand that.
I think I've had that with every single Alexander Payne movie, except for Downsizing, which started low. But
Yeah.
So, Nebraska, let's talk about Nebraska. I saw at the Manlius Art Cinema in Manlius, New York, which was basically a little closet of a movie theater. And I've told this story, but I think about it all the time, where before the movie starts, it's a pretty good crowd for what it is. I'm there with my friend Connor, who might be listening to this episode. And this
Hello,
little
Connor.
old man, this little old man comes out. Connor was the only one who would actually go to see good movies with me. Connor always brings this quote up. He says I said it, but I don't even remember saying it. But he says one time I said, there are some people who only see the bad movies. And he brings that quote up a lot. But yeah, we're both in the theater, and this little old man comes out, who I guess was the owner of the theater, and he was like, "Hello, thank you for coming. I don't know if any of you heard, but Alexander Payne, in an interview with NPR recently, said about the film," and then basically gave this whole little speech about what Alexander Payne had said on NPR. And he was like, "Okay, enjoy the movie now," and then started the movie. And I was like, "Wow, that was amazing." This little guy came out. It was a little pre-roll to the movie. I probably haven't watched Nebraska since I saw it. I maybe watched it once on home video afterwards, but that was it. It's one of the few movies that found a way to use Will Forte.
Aww.
Yeah. Well, I'm not. It's not Will Forte's a hard personality to build a movie around, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely nothing against him. I wasn't assuming that.
Yeah. When you look at the movies he's in that are his most viewed on Letterboxd, there are movies where he's in it for 2 seconds, because it's hard for the guy to carry a movie. Not his fault, really. It's just Is he MacGruber?
Just a thing.
Is he MacGruber?
He is
yeah,
MacGruber. Yep. Christopher
So,
Nolan's favorite movie.
Yeah. MacGruber.
I remember liking Nebraska. That's it.
Yeah.
Alexander Payne's strange for me because it's like I've never like outright loved his stuff except for like Sideways. Like I always feel a little distant from it until The Holdovers.
Mm-hmm.
And
So, like,
I
Holdovers
do think he's very talented though.
The Holdovers is the one that like won you over, and then shit happened. But
Yeah, I was like, oh, maybe this guy has a heart, and I was like, oh shit, fuck. Like
he seems really fascinated with men who hate themselves for some reason. So, that's what I seem to have latched on to.
Yep.
And then June Squibb got an Oscar nomination for it. Didn't win. I believe she's still alive. It kind of gave her like a weird little second wind in her career. For someone that old, she got to be in a Hubie Halloween.
Oh yeah, who doesn't love Hubie Halloween?
Yeah. Happy Amblin.
Sorry.
Happy Amblin. Now dead in a ditch somewhere, but
I think we can go back.
you can.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
We got
a lot of other ideas.
Yeah.
But and Bruce Dern, fucking Bruce Dern.
Oh
Still
yeah,
around.
yeah. Did he ever
Another guy-
need a comeback? And if so, is this it?
Well, I don't think. I
Not-
think it's weird that he went from a guy who like everyone kind of liked and had like a steady career to then he's in some of the biggest movies of those years. You know, like, like fucking Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was a blockbuster movie, and he's in it. He's not a huge part of it, but he's in it. He's in The Hateful Eight. He's in Django. Like Tarantino really gave him kind of a boost towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's interesting. A guy like older guy like that can kind of get that second wind, and it's always nice to see.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
I like Dern.
I do too.
And,
I also like my number 4 pick.
Oh wait, I just want to shout out one more actor, Stacy Keach in Nebraska, who's like one of the most villainous.
Yeah.
He's such a great like villainous character in that movie. He probably steals that fucking movie. So I just had to bring up Stacy Keach.
No, Stacy Keach is fucking terrific. Or was. He passed away, right?
Did he pass away? If it was really recent. I could be wrong though.
Now I gotta look this up. Hang on.
The voice of American Greed, Stacy Keach.
Nope. He's alive.
He's still alive.
My apologies
82.
to Stacy Keach.
Yeah, 82.
Yeah.
Keep going, Stacy.
Yeah. I've been rewatching 30 Rock, so there's actually a lot of crossover with Nebraska. And Stacy Keach does for their post Super Bowl episode, and he does like a fake interlude commercial for it. And he's like, "We used to chew glass in this country." It's like
that's amazing. It looks like though
he's doing
Stacy
one of those
Keach,
fake like Ford style commercials, you know?
he might be retired though. It looks like Stacy Keach hasn't worked since 2020, which is totally fine.
Yeah.
But one of his most recent movies was Gotti in 2019. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's
what are you gonna
incredible.
do? Oh, I guess it's on Blue Bloods, which is a show I don't watch. But hey,
Yeah.
all right, now it's your turn.
Okay, my number 4 pick is Spring Breakers.
Take it away, Diego.
I'm just gonna say I stand by this pick completely, even though we're probably learning too much about Harmony Korine lately.
I can't believe there ended up being weird shit about Harmony Korine.
Oh well,
that one,
it
just came out of left field. Like you just wouldn't see it with a guy like that.
There was just no way to predict it.
There was just no way to predict it. There was nothing in the way he carried himself or behaved that could have indicated such a thing.
Remember when he stole from Meryl Streep's purse and got like shut out of the David Letterman show forever because of it?
Yes, yeah, because he's a fucking weirdo.
Yeah. He's got some problems.
He's got problems. Yeah. And yeah, it's unfortunate that he is a very visionary director.
Yeah. Spring Breakers is not on your list then?
Was not on my list at the time. It would probably make my list now.
Yeah.
That is one. It's probably at the bottom of my list because I'm not like a huge Harmony Korine guy. Like I'm not like a massive Harmony Korine stan, I guess.
Yeah.
That's not me like rewriting history. I'm never like I let other people kind of be the champion of him, and it wasn't just not me. It was not me. So
yeah. Unfortunately, I also think it's James Franco's best performance. I think he's really incredible in it as just like this sleazy scumbag who's taking advantage of doe-eyed, what are essentially white supremacists. And then you're like, oh, that's just also James Franco.
Well, Franco also was one of those guys where before like we learned he sucked, like he could give like really great performances when he showed up, you know, like he was weird where he would swing wildly between good and bad performances.
Yeah, like rewatching that Spider-Man trilogy, he's fucking good. He's really fucking good. As like a really pathetic dweeb.
Yep.
Again, then you're like, oh, well, that's just okay. I get it now. Yeah, I think Spring Breakers is really fucking great, and I know it kind of became like this like almost like a millennial calling card movie.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, Spring Break forever. But I think there's some really insightful stuff about like the class politics of it, because the main girls in it are basically just like, you know, they treat it like they treat it like Spring Break, but they're doing like some truly horrific shit. And like, you know, the ones with a sense of moral compass end up like kind of trickling out of the movie one by one. But the other ones like double down and just get so much worse. And, you know, they're how do they like class tourists, but they're like they're just fucking they leave like such a wake of destruction. And also Gucci Mane's in it, and Harmony Korine was like, if you can stay out of jail, you can be in the movie. And he stayed out of jail until the end of the filming, and then he went back to prison, I think. Well, which I just thought was very funny. It's like, hey, he did enough. He did what was asked of him. I love the look of the movie. Benoit Debie is one of my favorite cinematographers. There's like such a Harmony Korine described the look of it as like very crunchy, like the texture and the grain and the noise. He's also a big fan of Miami Vice, and he was trying to capture something like that, but on film.
Yeah, you can tell that's kind of what he was going for with it, and I think he mostly succeeded. Like, I think it pretty much works.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I'll say I'm such a fan of Harmony Korine's work, work, not so much the worker, but. Yeah. He's always really trying stuff, not just like visually, but like narratively, to the point where like The Beach Bum, I think is just kind of like a bit, like it's a long episode of Seinfeld, basically. Yeah. It's like the worst person getting like kind of worse over time. No Thoughts had empty cinema, but Spring Breakers has like so much on its mind. I can't really like explain all of it right now, but I think it's a terrific movie and one of the best of the decade still. And that's my rant.
Yep. Like I said, it didn't make my list that year, and it took me a little while to warm up to it, but it probably would make my list now. So
yeah,
I'll say that. So what number are we on now? Sorry, I'm losing track.
No, it's all right. That's my number 4.
Okay. So that was your number 4. My number 4, we'll have to save because it is higher on your list.
Okay.
Was Gravity.
Ah.
So we'll talk about that in a moment.
My number 3 then is Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig's Frances Ha.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of those like those movies you kind of catch on like, well, it played on Netflix for a while. Too.
Oh yeah, it was in constant rotation back in the day when Netflix had basically everything, and Yeah, it was one of those that you just caught, like that everyone talked about, and they're like, "This is a generation-defining movie. It's amazing. You have to see this thing." And then you watch it, and you don't really get it. Then you wait a few years, and you watch it again, and you don't really get it. And then you watch it again a few years later, and you don't really get it. And then it's today recording this episode.
And now you get it.
No.
You're not a Baumbach guy.
I'm not a Baumbach guy, and it's a very well-made movie that just kind of doesn't do anything for me.
Okay. For me, I think it kind of taps into like that generational uncertainty everyone has after school, and you're like, what am I gonna do with my life? Like, what do I even want anymore? Like, who am I? Yada yada.
All right.
Like, do I even have like a place?
Diego, all right, let's do like a little bit of like a reenactment of those years for both of us, okay?
Okay.
All right, you go first. All right, say you be you, realizing you're in that transitional period. Just explain what your anxieties are.
Did I make the right choice? I guess I don't know.
All right.
I don't know how to
All
ask
right.
that.
Now here's me. I am dying in a hospital bed. So maybe that's why I didn't get Frances Ha that much.
I mean, hey, that's entirely possible.
It's not a criticism of the film at all, by the way. It's just that, like, whenever I hear people talk about that, like, post high school, like, what do I do with my life thing, I did not have that because I knew what I had to do with my life, which was not die. So, I had different priorities in my early 20s.
Hey, totally understandable.
So I think that's why Frances Ha's always at a little bit of a distance for me. As is most of Baumbach stuff, if I'm being honest. Which I don't even know why that is.
I don't love all of his stuff. Frances Ha is like far and away my favorite of his stuff. I do love seeing pictures of him though, because he looks like he never wants to be anywhere ever.
Yeah, he looks like he's been forced at gunpoint to be everywhere he's at.
It's incredible. And then you hear like when him and Greta are gonna like write Barbie, and he's trying to like get out of it because he's so anxious about it. And I'm like, you know what? I think I like this guy. I think he's one of us.
I don't know if I like that guy that much. Now that you say that.
Okay.
I mean,
right.
fucking.
That's fine.
I hope Greta Gerwig's happy. Is all I'm saying. If she has to massage that insecurity on a daily basis. Good lord.
Yeah.
Just how hard is it to write fucking Barbie? God damn it.
Well, I mean that's a pretty well written movie.
Yeah, it's well written, but it's not like I'm just picturing Barton Fink sitting in that movie theater watching clips of wrestling films and like not getting it. Like,
I'm trying to find the voice of the common Barbie.
Yeah, the common man. But yeah, so but I'm guessing you really liked Frances Ha.
Yeah, I love Frances Ha. I still love Frances Ha. It'd probably be lower on my list, but I think it's got a shot at the top 10 still.
Okay.
So you're number 3.
My number 3. Where's my number 3? All right, we're returning to your number 5, which was Her.
Yeah.
Remember Her?
I do remember Her.
What
do you feel about Her?
When was the last time you watched Her?
Oh god, like last year was it? Maybe 2 years ago? Let me check. I think I logged it. Oh, oh my god, like 3 years ago.
Okay. How did you feel on that watch?
I still really love it.
Okay.
I have some questions, but I still really love it.
All right. So here's something about Her.
How did you feel?
For me, at the time I saw Her, I was in what I would consider my first serious relationship, and it was a long distance relationship at that. And by the time I rewatch her, that relationship had completely collapsed and everything had fallen apart. And it definitely affected how I viewed the movie both times.
Okay.
Because I think it is a movie. There's a lot of readings you could put on the movie Her, right? Like there's kind of a lot you could do there, and I think it's you can partly see it about the way our relationships are kind of changing in the 21st century. You know, that there's a lot of what we do now that is very common would have been unconventional even 5 years ago. You know, especially in a post-pandemic world where we can't physically be with each other as much as we want to be.
Yeah.
And yeah. It's one of those movies where all right. What does Olivia Wilde call Joaquin Phoenix in the movie after their first date?
Oh shoot, I forget.
They have that blind date, and she calls him like a weirdo or something like that. Like, oh, you're actually like a bad person. Like she calls him out on some stuff. What do you think about that?
I think part of that is accurate, and I think part of that is that character's own like insecurities about like wanting to settle down now that she's getting older. You know, I think that's a pretty well defined and understandable statement, even for like a minor character like that.
Okay.
And he is weird, like Theodore Twombly, right? That's his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is kind of weird, you know.
He's very weird.
Yeah.
Very strange guy, and it's weird. It's a weird character to think that you related to him at one point, you know. So I feel like now when I look back, I can just see a lot of the mistakes in his character that I was making in my early 20s. Now what's weird about it is that he's a divorced man in that movie, so he's already gone through like a full relationship. Like it's an interesting movie when I look at it from that perspective. And how do I say this? It is weird in this era where we live so vicariously through other people over social media, and I wonder what that is doing to us mentally, and I wonder how much of Her is about that, you know. And I wonder how much of that is a choice we are making as a society, as if like we want this like sort of we get enough fulfillment out of this vicarious living, as opposed to how much of this is being forced upon us by the situation of the world we are in, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot more I could unpack here, but I don't want to be here for 4 hours talking about Her.
Yeah, I failed award contender.
Didn't it win Best Screenplay though?
Oh fuck, that's right. Okay, yeah.
It was kind of a surprise win too, if I remember correctly. And then Spike Jonze hasn't made anything since then, correct?
No, he's doing like a TV show or something right now.
Yeah, but he hasn't made anything no movie, like
no feature film. No.
Yeah,
like he's still working. He's at it.
But it's just crazy to think about. Like that was kind of his like crowning achievement moment, and nothing happened. So
yeah. I think part of that is the industry changes that have happened in light of that. Because this was a really successful movie, critically and financially, of course. But I just think the type of movie it is wouldn't get funded like at the budget level. What did it even cost to make? Hang on, let me see. Because I'm assuming it's like $50 million. Oh, it's $23 million. That looks incredible for $23 million.
Well, yeah, that's this era where those movies look more expensive than they are because they're cutting corners in a lot of places, and usually with like actor and director salaries and shit like that. But
yeah, really impressive. Jesus Christ. Yeah. So now that's probably like you could get this made again. Actually, I think, but I'm sure it'd be a struggle to do, and
I think it would play better now, considering like the weird AI world we live in right now.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I will say that, and I kind of responded this way to the creator, a movie I liked, even though significantly less than her. Um, but this concept of like AI, like how it relates to our real world, artificial intelligence isn't real intelligence in the real world. In
Mhm.
fictional narratives, it is an actual intelligence, so we have to treat it differently, right? We obviously have to treat it like as a sentient
Yeah.
being with like respect, and like you can have actual conversations, and this is part of her as well, like understanding the emotional capacities of a learning machine, like a functional like artificial brain.
Have you?
And in the real
Here's a
world,
question.
it's just like numbers.
Yeah, yeah. Have you fiddled with any like of the like chat like bots like Chat GTP stuff? Like, have you?
I
Uh,
haven't, and I don't begrudge anyone for trying to like understand it. I haven't yet because I've been so put off by it. Like
no, no. I
I'm more
totally
open
understand.
to trying to understand it now by doing that, but I've not given that a shot yet. No.
I have fiddled with a few just because of like curiosity. Specifically
Mm,
ones that are supposed to like be able to like hold a conversation with you. I find those kind of fascinating. What's really
mm,
weird about them is how overly complimentary they are to you.
hmm. Hmm.
How overly they seem to like no matter what you say, they try to find like a silver lining in it to compliment you. And
Wonder what that's
um,
about.
yeah, it is an interesting thing, and it does make me think a little bit about her and an operating system being
Mm-hmm.
tailor made for you. So um,
Yeah. Yeah, I think just part of the like what you're describing about the film, like being put off by these elements, I guess. That's what you're saying, right? Like you're a little more put off by that now?
I'm just, no, that's honestly not even the stuff I'm really put off by. It's just kind of interesting.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Okay, okay. Well, like I just think like because this is pure fictional science,
yeah,
Like
yeah.
for me, I'm just describing my own like hangups with these kind of stories now is that like it's just not real. Like we don't have the AI revolution thing or whatever,
Mm,
like the ending of her where they gain like enough sentience to move into their own plane of existence because they don't fit in with the human world and stuff like that. Like that's very moving to me. Even without like the relationship romance metaphors going on there. Or not even metaphors, it's just straight up literal romance. I don't know what the fuck I'm
mm,
talking about. But I think that's like a really fascinating like science fiction concept, but that's not AI as we
mm.
understand it in the real world. So for me, it's like I can keep elements like that at an arm's length distant. Like it's just not it's not that's not reality, I guess. And so
Okay,
that
yeah,
I do rub up against stuff like that now.
all right. Are you just against AI in general in fiction right now, just because of the way it's like that we're calling a lot of
Uh,
things AI now that aren't really AI? Like you think it's warping our perspective a little bit?
I worry it's gonna warp someone's perspective. Like, look, I love me some Gareth Edwards. I'm there day one for what he does next, but I think he's conflating the fictional AI with like the real deal thing, and the real deal AI should be like an assistance or like a beneficial thing to humanity,
Mm,
and not a tool to replace workers.
mm.
um, which is what it is now.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be that,
Now,
but that's what it is right now.
thankfully, it's not a very good tool. So,
Yeah, yeah. Like the AI bubble is gonna burst like NFT bubbles,
mhm.
and then smarter people than I will tinker away at what we call AI right now, and we'll see where that goes. I have no fucking idea, but
Well, based on movies,
um,
AI is just gonna work. It's just a great idea. Nothing will go wrong.
yeah, much
Ezra,
like the Torment Nexus.
do you hear people talk about AI like where they're like scared of it? Like, and I'm talking about like scared like in terms of like Skynet scared of like
Yeah,
Chat GTP, and like, are you like, what are you talking about? Like, it's not that. Like,
yeah,
it's that's kind of crazy to me that we think
hmm,
what we think the AI is versus what it actually is kind of nuts to me.
yeah. Well, that's from a healthy diet of watching James Cameron's Terminator and Terminator 2.
Yeah, I guess people are just I
And
don't
that's
know.
nothing against those movies, but I think people again like they're conflating the fictional AI with like actual like real world stuff, which is just not the same thing whatsoever.
Yeah.
Anyways, do you still like her?
No, we broke up. Oh, you're talking about the movie.
Boo.
I haven't really been able to bring myself to rewatch it because part of me thinks I will hate it on rewatch.
Okay.
Because it will just bring me back to too many moments from that era that maybe are best left in the past.
Okay.
But it did. I mean, when I rewatched it, it did kind of remind me of like it went from being a movie kind of about where I was able to view my long distance relationship through that to then on rewatch where I had post breakup where I had really shut myself off from people and my only interactions was kind of through social media type stuff, and that kind of like how easy it is to retreat into that kind of world. Which I'm not saying that's what the movie's about. I'm just saying in terms of my real life, it was interesting to see that reflected in 2 rewatches of the movie. So,
yeah, I find that element really interesting too. And again, like if you showed this to more people like now, not that it's like a mandatory viewing. Like I don't think everyone should like have to watch this movie or anything like that. I would encourage it because I do still love it. But yeah, it's I think it's aged in a mostly good way because of that social media aspect, especially.
Yeah.
Especially like after the start of a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was your number 3, right?
That was my number 3. So now on to your number 2, which we already discussed, but I already mentioned, but now it's time to talk about it.
Yeah. Alfonso Cuarón's Gravity.
No, you're lying, you son of a bitch. We talked about this before the fucking recording.
You're right. My actual number 2 is Pacific Rim. I was like, what the fuck is... Yeah, you're totally... I should have just switched it. I don't know why I didn't. My number 2 back in 2013 was Pacific Rim.
Yes. Diego had tried to
Guillermo
rig
del
it
Toro's
to make himself
Pacific
look
Rim.
a little better, but...
Yeah, no. Well, here's the thing. Gravity was one of the best theater experiences I've ever had. It was like... It felt like being on a roller coaster.
Mm.
I think the movie's still a really tight little thriller. Like, for like 90 minutes, it's about...
We will talk about
good
it,
as
but
these
we're
can
talking
get.
about Pacific Rim right now.
Okay. Pacific Rim, it's the best movie ever made. Talking about all these blockbusters on my list, in the back of my mind, I was kind of saving this for later, but fuck it. I think Pacific Rim might be the best blockbuster of the 2010s. I think the spectacle is unparalleled. I think the direction is just like flabbergastingly, stupidly good. The action is incredible. Anyone who says it's too slow is fucking weak. You're weak shit. You should be ashamed of yourself. It's got so much passion and love and heart, and it would be fucking moronic to kill off any of these characters in a sequel. I'm just getting angry because I'm thinking about the sequel now, but Pacific Rim is a masterpiece. I think it's top 3 Del Toro on a good day, and on my best days, I call it his best movie. It's definitely my favorite of his. But
yeah, it's all right.
I also think he's also like batting like 1,000 at this point. So, you know.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
And I know you're less. Yeah, you're less hot on it than I am.
It's an entirely solid movie. Now you're saying it's the best blockbuster of a decade that included Mad Max Fury Road, but hey,
Mad Max is right next to it.
Yeah,
it's right there. They're the same level to me.
Sure. I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, that it is not a great year for those type of movies.
Have you seen the unrated cut of Wolverine?
Yes, I have.
Okay, I think that one's actually pretty solid.
Yeah. Would you put Snowpiercer on that list?
Of best blockbusters?
Like, yeah, like, because it's kind of like an action movie, but it's like it barely got released, so.
Yeah, I did see it in theaters though,
How'd you manage to see it in
and
theaters?
like
It
that
never
was at a
played
local
anywhere near me.
theater. Oh, that's a fucking Weinstein motherfuckers. Yeah, I'd probably put Snowpiercer up there.
Okay.
Like, it's not my favorite Bong, but it's
John
it's
Wick
a great
2.
movie. Oh yeah, John Wick 2, absolutely.
So these are just movies I would rank higher than Pacific Rim, but hey.
Oh no, I would not.
Train to Busan, maybe. I was being very generous.
It's a great movie. I would not put it higher.
Mission Impossible Fallout. That's a lie. I don't like that movie.
You know what? I like it less now than I did when I first saw it. It's still a good time for me, but it's just like there's like nothing happening narratively.
Yeah, not a good movie.
And everyone fucking softballed that new one.
You mean that terrible movie?
I don't know what people saw in that, but yeah, it's a bad.
Oh wait,
movie.
are you? Oh, you're
Sorry.
agreeing that it's bad. I thought you meant people were like undersold how good it was. No, that movie's bad. That movie's very bad.
Yeah, I like every Mission Impossible except this new one. I think people fooled themselves.
Well, yeah,
I think it's
wrong?
a bad movie.
Like, it's really bad. Like, I
was flabbergasted.
I went easy on it. But
yeah, I was really shocked at basically how incompetent it was.
yeah, it's very bad. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, Pacific Rim, a movie that I had to drag friends to because no one wanted to see it because it was the same weekend as Grown Ups or Grown Ups 2. I don't even remember which one.
It was Grown Ups 2. I just sighed because I remembered that.
Saw it in IMAX. Probably one of the best IMAX movies I've ever seen. I think I can easily say that.
Yeah,
it looks incredible in the IMAX. I do love that it's a movie that essentially the cooler movie happened before the events of the movie start. Like that we're in the downslope. We are post the like golden age of kaiju fighting. It's like now everyone's losing and it just sucks now. Like there's a lot of really cool stuff in Pacific Rim. What really frustrates me, and it's less to do with the movie itself, is that it feels like an amazing first act to a franchise that is just getting started, right? It's like, this is a great place to start, and then it's just like, nope, that's not happening. So
yeah,
like that's really where I kind of run up against. Also, I don't know if all the metaphors of it work very well. In terms of it's kind of supposed to be a metaphor for climate change, right? Like it's like, oh, we got to stop this thing, but it's also a you could totally mistake the invading aliens as invading migrants that we have to build a wall to keep them out, and if the wall's not going to work, we might as well nuke them. So I'm not sure if it all works.
Okay, I see the qualms. So
and this is just me being a fucking piece of shit, but I love giant robot shit, and it's just like, this is a very good giant robot movie. It's not like my favorite, like I've seen other ones that are better.
Okay.
And I think part of it too is I so wanted it to be the like the Peter Jackson's King Kong of fucking kaiju movies, right? Where it's like, it's all the good stuff, none of the bad stuff, right? Like, and it's just epic. It's what you always pictured it in your head as, but it never actually looked like, right? And it just wasn't.
Yeah.
It just wasn't that. It's very good. It's just not that. So
I can't imagine calling this very good. Like, even down to like the fucking world building, like it's just so imaginative and inventive. Like, you just want to live in this shit.
It does such a good job that it makes me really want a sequel that never came.
Yeah. You know what? It's the one franchise where I'm like, because usually I've made it clear, like I have a hard line for like, oh, this is the real sequel. We're erasing the other ones, right? I'm like, such fucking boring bullshit. But me and all the other Pacific Rim heads was like, no, you probably go ahead and do that here.
Yeah, erase it. Fucking kill it. Fucking take that thing out back and shoot it. Like,
yeah.
The opening of, if they do another Pacific Rim 2, the opening of the movie should be someone killing the last Pacific Rim 2. It has nothing to do with the actual franchise. They just kill it, and then it's like, okay, now let's get to the actual good movie. But as someone who's just a Del Toro fan, it's just a lot of his. I respond a lot better to a lot of his other movies. They deliver for me in that way, where it's like, this is like the version I've always imagined of this type of movie. And Pacific Rim just didn't get there for me, but it's still very good. It's still,
do you think we're drift compatible?
Fuck no.
No.
I do like that. That is probably the best element of that movie, is the idea that you need to be like drift compatible. It's a very easy metaphor to play with.
Yeah.
Could do
I don't want to shout out. Yeah, I want to shout out my friend Avishai Weinberger, excellent writer. Who I interviewed him like about over a year ago now, and we just went on a Pacific Rim tangent because we both love it as well. And he had mentioned something in the original script that I was not familiar with. When they're drift compatible, that was supposed to be the only way the leads were going to be able to communicate. Where initially she was just going to not speak English out in the real world. But when they're drift compatible, we would interpret it as them speaking the same language. But really their minds are just interconnected, and so they can understand each other's feelings and emotions. And I'm like, man, that's such a good fucking idea. Like, I really want to see that in a hypothetical sequel.
It's a cool idea.
That will never happen.
So the movie ends with them nuking the aliens, and it says, only through the elimination of violence can we achieve world peace.
Yes.
Fun movie, though. Fun movie.
Yeah. Great movie. Anyways, what's your number 2?
My number 2, which was your number 8, is The Wolf of Wall Street. Life-changing.
Yeah, you had your finger
movie.
on the pulse a little bit.
Yeah, although here's something funny. I actually, in making my top 10, it might actually be lower on my list. I thought it would go up.
Whoa.
But yeah, but I realized there were 2 movies I kind of forgot about that were technically 2013 releases that were higher. So.
Okay.
Yeah, Wolf of Wall Street. All right, what's give me your quick take on Wolf of Wall Street before I give mine, because I don't hear my take as often.
It is the natural evolution of the Scorsese crime film, where we don't follow the rise and fall of like organized crime. Now we just follow the rise and fall of white collar crime. Like, this is where like the quote unquote like the kingpins are now. They're on Wall Street. They're not dealing back alley shit anymore. Like, that crime exists still, but it's not the level it once was. And if it is, it's also more interconnected with like corporate or government agencies, or just straight up Wall Street as well. And law enforcement. So I think this is one of the quintessential movies of like the history of cinema, not just of the decade.
Okay.
So I'm in your camp, is what I'm saying. I would definitely have it higher than you, then, it sounds like.
Yeah, that reading is 100% correct, but it's also a movie about how humanity is doomed. Wolf of Wall Street is capitalism as apocalypse. It is a story about, it's not just a story of crime, it's not just a story of addiction, it is about the inability of human beings to break away from capitalism. It is a movie where Jordan Belfort, he's a criminal, he's given multiple opportunities to just stop, and he will get away with it, right? He is at multiple turns. He will get away with it if he just stops, and he can't bring himself to do it. That speech, everyone shares that speech where he's like, I'm not leaving, right? Which is a really powerful and intense scene in the movie. That is the scariest fucking scene in any movie. That scene is so scary to me. Because ultimately, you know, capitalism's a fucking nightmare. But what we would like to at least think is that ultimately the people in charge will know when to stop, if only for their own benefit, right? Like, that is even the libertarian reading of capitalism, is that, like, look, yes, there's going to be corruption, yes, there's going to be this, but it will ultimately pull us all forward, and the market will eventually correct itself, right? The market itself there will be plenty of bad actors, but if we let it do what it does, it will ultimately pull ourselves forward. This is someone who has won, who is unable to stop. And he keeps going until he basically destroys his life, and then even then he isn't punished. He is only rewarded. And at the end of the movie, we're left, it's a very blanket statement of people want what this guy has. And it is a story about basically how we're all addicted to capitalism. And it's a very frightening film from that angle. Because I think it explains a lot of what's going on right now, where it's not just greed driving these people. It's irrational addiction. It is, they aren't just doing it because they're evil, greedy people, even though they are. They don't know how to stop. And we are on a track that is disastrous for humanity. And we cannot break away from it because so many people are addicted to it.
That's an excellent read on an excellent film.
It's a scary movie. I love that movie. It's also very funny, but it's really a frightening film when you watch it. But I saw that Christmas with my grandfather and dad. So, interesting movie to go with your grandparent to see.
Yeah. I went with a group of friends from high school. And I think we thought we were just going to get like an outright comedy, but I do think we were all a little shaken after.
Yeah.
Which is a testament to the great Scorsese.
Well, I think the first watch was such a, I kind of walked out of the movie, felt like I had a fucking heart attack, And,
yeah.
And then, subsequent watches, just oh, this is a frightening film. And I will say, talking about, talking about her, this is the tail end of libertarian Matt. I was still a libertarian in 2013. And Wolf of Wall Street is definitely one of the movies that was, yanking that needle out. Of just being oh, all right. Okay. There's something I'm missing here. And it's better to wise up now than later, I guess. But
yeah.
So.
But, yeah, that's a great number 2. And then my number 1 of 2013 was Gravity.
Which was my number 4.
I already kind of talked about. Yeah, I already talked about a little bit with the Pacific Rim stuff, but yeah, good movie.
Winner of Best Picture that year, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Huh?
I think it's a little telling that I don't have that much more to say about it. It is one of those movies you kind of get everything you need out of it when you watch it. You don't really need to talk about it. You can kind of talk about the imagery symbolism and stuff like that. Some of it's very obvious. I do think it's very moving and powerful. And I think it's a great film. Not really that much more to add.
Yeah.
Though. I don't mean that as a negative.
This is also a movie that was just absolutely body slammed by, at the time, not problematic comedian Louis C.K.
Oh, what did he say?
His take was she's a reluctant astronaut. There's no such thing as a reluctant astronaut. And I was well, he's not incorrect.
Yeah.
It's also fucking Neil deGrasse Tyson's field day of just being that's not how gravity works. And
I remember he was going ham. Yeah.
I think he is in the CinemaSins episode about Gravity.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. What fucking dog shit world.
I think those guys, thankfully, aren't really a factor anymore.
I think they fizzled out, but I also haven't just looked into them anymore. So
yeah, but what movies can they talk about? I guess it's one of those things where they can only really do popular movies. But
yeah, well, for a while they could just do anything. That's changed, thankfully, but for a while it was anything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what's your number 1?
My number 1 movie that has aged totally normally, that everyone still agrees is a great movie, has no problematic people associated with it. A movie that honestly I consider of a piece to Wolf of Wall Street. People aren't ready for that conversation.
Oh, no.
And that movie is Woody Allen's Blue Jasmine.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say American Hustle.
Oh
This
no,
is
I knew that
worse.
movie was dog shit when I saw it. No, Blue Jasmine.
Okay,
Um,
yeah.
I was like, this is a new peak for Woody Allen. 2013 Matt was like, Woody Allen, you've done it again. And it was also probably the last Woody Allen movie I saw before we were reminded of who Woody Allen was.
Well,
Uh,
you live and you learn.
yeah, unfortunately, I cannot totally remember what my take was on it because I have not revisited it in like 10 years because of that. So, but when I saw it in theaters, I responded very strongly to the movie. And I thought Kate Blanchett was excellent in it. Thought it was a great movie. Again, about I consider it a movie about almost toxic capitalism, and Kate Blanchett kind of being a representative of that because everyone's life she touches, she ruins. And Louis C.K. is also in the movie, as is Alec Baldwin. Somehow in the intervening years, the least problematic guy in it is Andrew Dice Clay, probably.
Good fucking lord.
And that was also like a moment where it's like, Dice is back. Like,
Oh.
it was he hadn't done anything for a bit, so and suddenly he was in.
I wonder why.
And they, I don't think Dice Clay hasn't done anything criminal, has he? Did I miss that? He's just kind of.
Oh
insane.
no, I don't know. He just kind of like abrasive.
Dice Clay was just. He was kind of one of those guys like, women, they suck. And people were like, yeah! Like,
Yeah.
and
I
then,
just
like,
get
he was like,
flashbacks to Kid Rock.
oh, yeah. And I think Dice was kind of like later, he was like, that was a character. Which who knows how true that is, but he did try to distance himself from. I mean, he called himself Dice. That's not a name. Like,
Yeah.
so, but Blue Jasmine, he's in it, and that was kind of like, yeah, Dice is back. And then he's in A Star is Born, like a few years later.
Oh yeah.
So a small part, but he's good in it. So he had a TV show for a bit. Dice is interesting. So speaking of Star is Born, you see that Maestro?
I have not.
Don't tell anyone, but I kind of liked it.
Okay. No. Hey, Bradley Cooper's a good director.
Yeah, it turns out Bradley Cooper's actually a good director, and I hate him.
Why?
Because no guy that good looking should be that good a director.
Oh yeah.
That's unfair.
Well, he just kind of became like every award season ends up having an enemy, and I think he just like kind of slotted in because he's been passionate about it, and people hate passion.
Well, it's also like
I don't know. Maybe he sucks. I don't know the guy.
Yeah, I don't know either. But we're also all rewriting our reviews of A Star is Born, which was like, it was kind of like an underdog at the time and then kind of became the mainstream choice, you know?
Well, just like, I think everyone else is. I'm like, I thought we also liked that movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I don't know what people are talking about. So Maestro's good. It's a little unconventional. I think that's what's throwing people too. Is it's a little unconventional. Also, the nose was probably a mistake, but that's a whole other discussion. Notice I just don't have anything to say about Blue Jasmine other than it was my number one movie that year.
Okay.
This is like right after it's his follow up to Midnight in Paris, I believe. I think he'd done one movie between it, but I don't remember what that movie was.
Yep, which is the last of his that I really loved.
What was that one?
I loved.
Did you mean Midnight?
Midnight in Paris. I don't remember what he's done after.
Oh, okay, I thought there was a movie between Midnight and Blue Jasmine. So, but Midnight in Paris kind of gave him like this. It was a weird Woody's back. Like he's actually a good director, and yeah, and then that went away fairly quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's so
yeah. Because at first I was like, well, that's when I'm learning about like problematic stuff and whatever. And then I'm like, well, as long as he didn't do anything criminal, what do you mean none of his other kids talk to him? Okay, one of his kids still talk to him. Which one is that? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh no.
What the fuck? I was 20. I didn't understand the complications of those things. I didn't have any perspective on life. I had just gone through my first breakup. I was in a weird state. I liked the movie. It was 10 years ago. I probably will never watch it again. But I was also. I will also admit to this. I was probably also. It didn't make my top 10, but I was also probably a defender of Dallas Buyers Club in 2013, which is a bad movie. So.
Oh, okay. It's a bad movie. I don't think I ever really responded to it, thankfully.
Yeah. Although when I found out that one of the people that wrote it was an AIDS denialist, suddenly a lot of that movie made a lot of sense.
Whoa.
Yeah. There's an article about it. You can look it up.
Oh,
it's
wow.
a really interesting read where they reached out to actual AIDS activists, and one of the guys picked up on it. And basically, to give credit to the director who recently passed away, if I remember, he kind of passed away unexpectedly. The director kind of stepped in and fixed the script to remove references to things that AIDS denialists push. So good for him. But yeah, you can find an interesting article. I can't remember.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's good at least.
Also from that year, I just I feel like we have to bring it up. Blue is the warmest color. Which at the time,
the movie that introduced film Twitter to Adele Exarchopoulos.
And how'd you feel about Blue is the warmest color?
Along with Blue Jet, something about the color blue that
year.
Yeah,
we can't trust it.
It's just aging terribly. Yeah. Look, those lead performances are fucking killer. It is an aggressively uncomfortable movie in hindsight. Yeah. Especially having learned the directors, like, even for French people, is having, like, struggles getting work because he's so difficult. The French don't want to work with him on a regular basis.
Yeah, just for comparison, the French are currently working with Woody Allen. So that's just the comparison. So,
Roman Polanski won a César 4 years ago.
What's going on over there?
Something in the fucking water.
At least they burn like half the country down when they fucking try to lower unemployment by like 3 cents. Like, that's at least admirable.
Yeah, you
take the good with the bad.
That's all right. Also, you know what? Here, you take the good with the bad, and I just went to like randomly to a French restaurant, like just randomly, the other night, and you know what? Some of the best meals I've ever had, some of the best drinks I've ever had. I'm gonna give the French a pass for a little bit. Right. I'm gonna lay off my hate of the French. They have been treating me very well.
That is their claim to fame, is the food.
Yeah. Oh my God. I had this salmon tartare with like this fucking like lemon zest thing and like some weird. I don't know what it was. It was so fucking good though. It was absurdly good. I was so underdressed. Not that I give a shit about how the French perceive me, but I was a little embarrassed. And it didn't matter because everything was so great. So, Amour in West Hollywood, if anyone wants some of the best fucking food you'll ever have in your entire life. Right. Anyways, yeah. Good luck to the French. See if you can keep this up.
Now, I do not have a revised top 10 list of the year. I do have a top 5, though, that I was able to kind of hone in on.
Okay, I just want to mention some stuff. I'm not going to, rank too hard. Although I will say Pacific Rim is still number one.
Okay, well, now it's number one. You had Gravity. I'm not letting you forget you picked Gravity as number one.
Now it's number one. Yes.
No.
But if you have, like, your top 5, then you can start that, and I'll just toss out another one I would put on my list.
And
we'll just swap back and forth.
I'm only saying it because my top 5, only one movie in the top 5 was actually on my top 10 list that year. So,
whoa.
And some of these it's a little bit because of like when they were released. I think I have this all correct that all these movies had at least limited or wide releases in 2013 in the United States. And also you'll notice some movies listed as 2013 movies that aren't on our list. They did not get wide releases in 2013. They're the following year. So my top 5, and unfortunately I have swapped one canceled man for another, but I just gotta be honest, for my number 1. Which is the movie Upstream Color. Which is an absolute masterpiece made by a piece of shit. Really heartbreaking one. that I definitely didn't see it when it came out. I saw it later, but it definitely became a favorite afterwards. Another one I saw a little later, the anime Wolf Children. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
I have.
That's a fucking great movie. Beautiful, heart-wrenching movie for those who haven't seen it. My number 3 would have been the documentary The Act of Killing. Another one I probably watched over Netflix like way later, which is a very uncompromising look at people who commit genocide, frankly. Number 4 would have been Wolf of Wall Street, which we already talked about. And number 5 would have been The Wind Rises. So, that would have been my top 5 of that year.
Yeah,
and now is
Wind Rises. I don't think it would get my top 5. I think it'd be in my top 10 now. I wanted to shout out The Tale of Princess Kaguya.
Now, I thought that was a 2014 one in the States, though. Because I'm going by the Academy, because I think the Academy nominates it for 2014. I could be completely wrong, though.
I gotta check this. Okay, because I could have sworn it was up against like Frozen and stuff like that.
I remember The Wind Rises being up against Frozen.
Yeah, it just says release date November 2013.
Let me check. Let me check real quick. 86 Academy Awards. Best Animated Features. It went to Frozen over The Wind Rises. Not Tale of Princess, whatever's on there.
Tale of Princess Kaguya. It is. It's a 2014 qualifier.
So,
okay, so it does not count.
That would have been.
You're right. I should have checked.
No, it's fine because that was another one where I was considering like, did it make my list? But yeah. So, I am now in my phase where I am willing to admit that anime usually make my top 5 of the year. So, shout out to The Boy and the Heron.
Oh yeah, fucking wonderful movie. Terrific.
That's what's funny about Wind Rises, which it feels very much like a final statement on someone's career, and then fucking Miyazaki just throws out The Boy and the Heron, and it's like, oh, this is an even better final statement.
Yeah, and then he's like, yeah, I'll probably do 1 or 2 more, and it's like, Jesus, man, Jesus.
It's a good bit. It's a good bit.
Oh, it's a great bit. Stoker. I wanted to shout out Stoker. Stoker would have made my list.
Which I
did not vibe with Stoker immediately. That definitely took some time for me to get acclimated.
Same. I probably saw it in theaters.
It's much better than Old Boy.
It probably just didn't make my top 10 in the way that The Counselor didn't make my top 10. Which I think The Counselor nowadays might actually be in my top 10. Which
that would be higher for me as well.
So
yeah. And I would put Inside Llewyn Davis absolutely on my top 10.
I'm sure we're missing some films, but that's where we're at right now in terms of our rankings.
I hope you enjoyed that. I enjoyed doing this.
I enjoyed doing it too.
This was Matt's suggestion, and I think it was a great one.
It's just kind of interesting to look back on how we maybe felt back in the day. So maybe we'll make this a yearly thing.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Oh god, my 2014 list is gonna be fucking embarrassing though.
Why? What do you remember? What was on it?
I remember immediately some of the stuff that was on it.
Oh no. Whiplash.
Yeah. We don't have to talk about that today though.
Whiplash. I would still.
You know what? I don't think that was ever on my list.
I would still
my top 10.
I would still put it in my top 10, honestly.
Okay. You think it's Giselle's best movie?
I do.
I kind of do too.
I think it's a good movie. I think what would really I would put John Wick like higher than I probably did at the time. Like that's one where I really liked it.
I remember I remember I was doing film criticism at the time and I gave it like a B+. I'm like, what the fuck? That's like an A- at least. Like, not that ratings are like matter, but just like looking back at it, I'm like, no, I didn't know how good we had it. And of course, the rest of the series is like A+, but just like comparatively. But yeah, this was great, Matt. Thanks for like doing all this. This was your suggestion. This is how we're starting the year.
I just thought it would be fun. I've always had this idea of like going back and doing lists from like 10 years ago to see how they've changed. So, yeah,
Hmm.
it's fun to think about, and maybe we can even revisit.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
we can
no,
see how our opinions change just over the years if we do this for a long period of time. So
yeah, yeah. That would be great.
now here's a
We
question.
kind of want this to be a very big year for the podcast,
Mhm.
so I think that will determine
Yeah,
the
yeah,
amount of years we can do that. But
exactly. But here's
I'm
something.
looking forward to all of it.
Now, I just want to. Now, if you could make a prediction from this year, what's a movie that you think will maybe grow in your estimation in 10 years, and what's a movie you think has a chance to decrease in your estimation over 10 years?
Just off the top of my head, I think I underestimated Poor Things. I love that movie. I didn't put it in my top 10. It's like at 11, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be much higher.
Haven't seen it.
I think that would crack my top 5 possibly.
Haven't seen it yet.
Okay. Yeah, that I think that's one for me. And I think I might not respond as positively to How to Blow Up a Pipeline,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. A movie I did really, really like. Depending on the direction the world goes in the next 10 years, let's see, I might like it more.
All right.
But we will see. We will see. Those two I think are up in the air the most.
Yeah.
For better and worse.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
How about you?
Let me think. There's a fairly good chance that I will respond less to. I'm trying to think of a movie that would be like that would actually make my top 10. I could see, like, even though it's really high right now, I could see myself maybe cooling on Oppenheimer over time. You know, like right now I really like it, but I could see myself cooling
Maybe
on it.
Yeah, maybe it's not Nolan's masterpiece, but maybe it's still a fantastic movie.
Yeah, it's right now it's my favorite of his, but we'll see. And in terms of growing, I'm gonna start some shit. Just because it's been 3 days and I have not stopped thinking about the movie Saltburn, even though I don't really think it's a good movie.
Matt's been texting me about it.
It's
After having initially not really enjoyed it, I think. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think it's fair to say you didn't like respond positively,
well,
not outright negatively though.
My take was my initial review, which is what I posted like right after watching it, was just on Letterboxd says me being shot for being too brave. This was fine actually, which was my take. I kind of feel like it was fine. Like I didn't love it, didn't hate it. It was fine. But what's weird is I haven't really changed that opinion, but I haven't stopped thinking about it. And there are other movies where I have had higher opinions of that I have stopped thinking about a lot quicker. So I don't really know what that means. It could totally be swirling around in my head and I ultimately land on the side of actually that's dog shit. But right now it's just it hasn't left my brain. So I think I have to get through everyone's current takes on it and the filmmaker and try and like actually just look at the movie itself, you know? Like I think the conversation around the movie is kind of warping how I view the movie. And if I can just also I will say I think it was much better directed than Promising Young Woman. I
think so too. I'm still not like crazy about how it's all cut together.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't have to get into all that. I think everything's like a step off.
There's a couple of strange choices in terms of how the movie is put together.
Yeah.
But I think that might have been a flaw starting at the scripting stage, and not just they just never figured out how to solve it. Because I don't know if that movie's actually really about anything. So, which is the weirdest.
Yeah, you're convincing me.
It's such a strange movie. It really I think people are underestimating how strange it is. Not in terms of like the like visceral stuff that happens in it, just in terms of like the philosophy of it almost. Like it's an odd movie. So it could, like I said, I texted Diego, it could be My Counselor, where like it's 10 years from now it's like, no, that's actually kind of a genius film in a weird way, even though it is kind of deeply flawed. But
yeah, One of my favorite Ridley Scott movies.
Yep. Ridley Scott's Saltburn.
Oh, now we're cooking. But you have to keep the same cinematographer. You have to keep Linus Sandgren.
Yeah. I mean, why not?
Okay.
It does look great.
Yeah.
Like, it really does actually have I really do like the look of it, which is partly what's so upsetting about the movie. But so
it's like a really perverted perfume commercial.
It kind of is. It's like, what if I wanted to murder the perfume guy? Like, that's what the movie is. You hit the nail on the head, Diego.
Yeah.
I don't want the perfume. I want the essence of the man I murdered. That's what Saltburn is, people.
Yeah. Anyways, Matt, thanks for joining me.
That's good.
Where can the people find you online?
Just keep an eye out. I don't know. Like, Emperor OTN1 at Twitter or X, and I'm Emperor OTN everywhere else. So
don't call it X. Don't be one of those. It's Twitter. Links down to everything else in the description below. We'll be back soon with a new season of a show. I don't think we've said what it was. I think we all realize what it's going to be, just given the trajectory of recent seasons. But we'll see if something else comes up prior to that.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. If you didn't like this episode, like and subscribe anyways, because you might find something you do like. We have been professionally unprofessional.